Let's go!
Fight, fight, fight. The crowd usually chants as two teenage delinquents go at it on screen. In this instance, it was for real. There he was, 10th grade, Elias Theodorou, fighting at school. Recorded on a Motorolla Razr, this victory birthed his high school reputation as a fighter. Elias later went viral on YouTube before he even knew what YouTube was. This time he lost the fight. Without batting an eye, his Greek father told him to become a UFC fighter. This wasn't to happen again. Now Elias is preparing to build his reputation as a legend amongst the UFC elite. Equipped with one of the best attitudes and hair in the UFC, we're sure he'll be victorious. Ladies and gentlemen, Elias Theodorou.
Straight out of the T-Dot.
That's what it is.
Live from the 6 boroughs.
Don't go nowhere.
For sure. Welcome to Standing in the 6 with your hosts, Michael and Constantine.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning on this wonderful Monday morning. I always say wonderful Monday morning.
Absolutely.
Mondays are days that a lot of people don't look forward to. A lot of people don't look forward to Mondays.
I don't know why. It's a new day.
It's a brand new day, man.
It's a new dawn.
Yeah, I actually love Mondays. Me personally, I love them.
That is a T-shirt.
Yeah, I love
Bold.
Mondays.
Think about it, just walk around.
Yeah.
I love Mondays.
I love Mondays, man.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Why do you love Mondays?
it's the beginning of the week. It's like ready to just start that race. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Ready to start that race, ready to attack.
Ooh.
What opportunities are we going to attack today?
Yeah. So
Now, I've already had obstacles already thrown at me. What time is it now? 10:30. I've already had about 3 obstacles thrown at me. Big ones right now. They're on my mind as we speak. But at the end of the day, we're going to attack those obstacles. We're going to attack them.
Look at that.
They're not going to defeat us.
Hey, speaking of defeat.
Beautiful. How we just flow into things. Isn't that amazing?
You're not supposed to comment on the...
I know, but sometimes you just got to do that.
I know, when we rehearse these intros for 7 hours, they better be fluid.
Exactly.
Just joking. Anyways, I'm excited today about our guest.
So am I. Because he's Greek, or...
Well, I mean, because he's Greek, you should say his full name.
Oh yes, Elias. Now, everyone calls him Elias, but I might correct him today because he might get confused. It's Elias.
You're gonna bring him back
Theodorou
for the home country.
Exactly.
Huh? Really?
Elias. So Elias is the actual Greek way of saying it. However, the English version is Elias. You know?
Yeah, it doesn't sound as good. Elias.
Yeah.
Elias, full name.
Theodorou.
Okay, so it's pronounced as it's spelled.
So if everyone, oh, he's always kind of messing up names. I'm not messing this name
It's
up.
you. Yeah,
know what I mean?
I guess that speaks into how you phonetically how you pronounce names. It's that that Greek. I guess what's the word? Error.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know?
Somewhat. But yeah, that's who it is today, man. Elias.
It's like my mom. My mom, she's Polish. My brother's Justin.
Okay.
But they don't say J. They say like Y.
Like Justin?
So she says like, she kind of says, look, she has no accent, but she kind of says Yastin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Justin. Justin. So we would make fun. How funny is that? That gives you an idea. Picture it to my family. We would make fun of my brother the way my mom says his name.
Really?
Think of it, you know.
I mean, that's...
It's not nice.
That's not nice. But yeah. But why are you excited about Elias?
Oh, look at that. Bump, set.
Yeah.
I'm excited because it is the consummate winner. And I don't mean by outcome. I mean here.
Okay, the mind.
Yes, because we both watched him Saturday night compete. Man, that was an amazing fight.
It was.
That I felt tired watching that fight. I kind of want to get in his brain just to get an idea. It seemed exhausting.
Right.
2 big boys going toe to toe. He didn't get the outcome he wanted. He lost.
Right.
But man, it was amazing. Just even in the correspondence since then. It's been 48 hours?
Yeah.
Not even 48
hours.
It's not even 48 hours.
Yeah.
And this guy's like so excited to come this morning and be on the show, and it's just amazing. Like the bounce back mentality of just like a new day. Why should he wallow on what happened Saturday night? Like, he's all about learning, and like, man, it's just amazing.
Well, I was thinking 2 things on Saturday. The first thing I was thinking was, man, I hope he kills it. You know what I mean? And I hope, look, in a fight, we've seen fights enough, Mike. You get to that point where you're battling, you're going to come back with some sort of injury. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, man, I'm wondering if he gets a punch, or if he gets like, scuff or cut open. will he bother coming down? Because, you know, at the end of the day, he is the Greek Spartan, right? You know, he has to look his finest, right?
It's true.
You know what I mean? and then the second thing was, if he does, for whatever, lose, will he still want to come in? I mean, you know, you can get put in a funk sometimes.
Now I ask you that. You were kind of I guess you were mindful of that. That
Yes.
if he didn't win,
Right.
would he come?
Right.
Would he come in?
Right. Yeah.
And you thought you were prepared for it. I ask you why. Is it because you wouldn't come in? Like if
No.
that happened to you Saturday night, would you not come in on Monday? Because, you know,
So for me,
I mean, you can understand.
it's human nature. I mean, you go through something traumatic, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, your mind's everything. Your mind kind of dictates what you're going to do in life, whether you're going to choose one path or the other. However, we talked about this last week, is about the whole thing about mental strength, right? You know, if you have this overcoming element where any obstacle gets thrown my way, look at the Michael Jordan quotes. You know, it doesn't matter how many shots you take or how many losses you take. You know, it's that 1,000th shot or 14,000th shot that's going to basically define you. And at the end of the day, he said something in his Instagram quote. He said, the next day or that
Who's
night.
this, Elias?
This is Elias.
Elias.
Yasu Elias. He said, what did he say right now? Something along the lines of, Mike, you heard that. We actually said that. Sean Pearson said this exact same quote.
He goes, there's winning and learning.
Winning and learning.
Yeah.
And
he said he's so excited, like so grateful with his corner, so excited to get back to work.
Exactly.
And learn so many things. He learned so many things and to like sink his teeth for the next one.
And this is why he's a winner.
Amazing.
It's all in the mentality. And right now, I mean, we'll talk to him this morning, but I can guarantee you he's right now ready for his next opponent. Like he's going in there mentally to get ready for that next piece. And it's all about getting hit and getting back up. And this right now to me has already started. That's a perfect example.
It's like, look, let's pull back. There's, you know, that whole thought of when this happens, then I will be either successful, respected, or like it will.
Right.
You know, there's you know that thinking of like we will arrive when.
Yes.
Okay. You know, this whole where they talk about like life is a journey. It's like, you know, success. It's not a destination. You don't just like get to some point and then I'm successful forever.
Exactly.
I can rest.
Absolutely.
Right. You notice these guys. Anyone who has any mental fortitude, they literally, doesn't matter if they get knocked down. It's just the next step and the next step and the next step. When they look at their steps, where it got them, or their body of work, or their reputation, they have a winning reputation.
Absolutely.
Right? Like it does not matter the outcome of each step.
No.
Right?
Look, we talk about it on a regular day to day. Man, you get hit, you get back up. But these guys are actually physically doing this.
Yeah, we're not actually hitting each other when we're saying this.
No, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
oh man, I gotta.
You punch me and I'm like, get back up, bro.
That's right. So to me, I mean, looking to dive into him right now and what he is, the ingredients, the formula that makes him tick.
Because it's fresh right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of get into the mind, the thinking. What's his day look like the next day?
Right.
What does he do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he do?
Okay, maybe. Well, you know what?
Well, should we bring him in?
Yeah, let's not speculate.
Let's bring him in. Let's bring in the Greek Spartan, Elias Theodorou.
Let's go!
Well, good morning, everyone. We have today UFC athlete Elias Theodorou. For the Greeks, Elias Theodorou.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks a lot for coming down, man.
Oh, my pleasure.
Really, really happy you come down.
The feeling's mutual.
Amazing, man. And like, I mean, they do say the rumors or the legends that your hair is top notch. I mean, look at that, man. Like those tightly knit braids. I mean, it looks sick.
Yeah, well, I usually keep them in braids. Well, I keep them in braids for the fight and then kind of like hang on for a little bit longer. But, you know, whether it's braids, long hair, or man bun, just keeping it.
There you go, man.
Keeping it going. The main event, M-A-N-E.
What's your official reputation? The best hair in the UFC?
Yeah. Well, the best hair in MMA, arguably the best hair in combat sports.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Case in point, we're watching your fight on Saturday. I'm sitting on the couch with my daughters, and look, they see a fight. They know Daddy loves this stuff too, and all they're commenting is on your hair.
Nah.
Right? They're like, wow, his hair. Man, that must take a long time. It looks really good. So I'm like, look, I'll show you how he normally has it. And I pull up, and then you know your UFC profile, like it's glorious. Yes. Have you seen it? It's like, I think the profile is like a circle.
Yeah,
It's like a circle image, and his hair literally goes beyond the circle.
Really?
Like so. My daughters, they're 9 and 12, and they're like, wow, like
That's crazy.
Well, send my regards and appreciation.
Yeah, they know it takes work to keep it
Yes,
that
for
good.
sure.
Yeah, you know, we both would if we could, but
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have really long hair. It's like really down to here. It's a Greek
Badass.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
The Gino days, right?
Yeah, go for stages for sure.
You trying to show him up right now?
No. I can't show them up anymore. Life took over, right? But man, it's one of those things where I mean, like I said, we've had knowing people in the area kind of connected us. Neil again connected us
Yep.
with you directly. We've been knowing you've been in this sports for quite a while right now, specifically, doing your thing right now, and it's one of those things that we kind of saw for the first time. 231. Our company was hired to provide security for the UFC, and to see what happens in the octagon opposed to what you see on TV are two complete different experiences.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I mean, you're going for war in there, like literally.
It doesn't translate from home when you're watching it on TV. You don't get an idea of the impact of, as we said, flesh on flesh. I remember some of your kicks because you fought UFC 231 and won. That was an amazing fight.
Thank you so much.
Some of your low leg kicks were just like it. The sound in the arena. I remember just like it was literally like, bam! Like you wouldn't think it would be that loud, but
No.
like you get an idea of the magnitude, the strength. When for your fight, the commentator was actually saying, he's like, "Did you see it? Did you watch it back?"
I haven't watched it yet.
You don't watch it
What's it
back?
called? I've seen some of the highlights or whatever like that. It's one of those things where I'm going to sit back with my coaches and obviously take it in. You do that whether you win or lose, but
Yeah.
they've looked at it and said that there's much to take on the positive and the negative, and it's just a case of growing whether you win or lose.
Yeah, and the commentator, he was a British guy. I forget his name. but-
Michael Bisbeck.
Yes. So he's saying, he's like, look, it looks like that's just a kick, and he was trying to say like to the crowd, he's like, no, that's not just a kick. Those hurt, man. He goes, those hurt, and the way you were kind of almost baiting him high and then just chopping him down low. He was saying like he was actually saying in the fight that like you do not appreciate how hard those kicks are.
Yeah, and it's even one of those things where, again, like I mentioned, my coaches have watched it a couple of times. They were saying that Derek, the reason why he went for the takedown so much is because I was chopping the leg down. He has the actual record in my weight class for the most first-round knockouts in middleweight history.
Right.
So, again, I've won some and I've lost some, and it's one of those cases where sometimes you can visualize a fight a million times over, and when it doesn't happen the way that you expected, because I expected him coming out guns ablazes, right? And a lot of those counters and spinny attacks that I was doing were supposed to be in reaction of him coming forward.
Yeah.
So the baiting was supposed to get him to come forward and commit, and I would translate my weight because he almost in previous fights needed to cross that line and needed to tag someone. But, he showed his resolve, and he showed why he's a veteran and why he's 8th in the world. And, actually forced me to have almost that need. And it's one of those things where, again, you can play it in your head a million times, and sometimes that's kind of like the beauty of what mixed martial arts is. It's such a raw, real thing, and you can plan every single day and be it was the best training camp I've ever had going on forward to it. But on the day of, it's kind of like almost like the lights are on, but not necessarily everyone's home.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly taking my humble pie and taking it every single bite. Most importantly in this is you either win or you learn, and especially if you don't get knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
No, for sure.
So that's what that kind of I'm looking at. I'm still positive in all aspects of it because the sun will rise another day.
Listen, bro,
Ooh,
that's
perfect wording.
You have honestly an incredible attitude, and to me, it's like the elements and the traits of not this experience, but in just generally who you are as an individual and your thought process really, Elias, is what sets you and defines you from other people.
Appreciate
it. And what I want to jump back to, we love the origin stories, like going back. A lot of people will look at this, and a lot of people will look at many fighters or athletes or musicians and be like, how do I do that? How do I get there? And they may know how to get there, or they may know it, but it's something underlying that stops from getting there. Okay, like it could be a work ethic element. It could be something else that's blocking it. What you've done is an incredible task to be able to be fighting in the UFC. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to jump back. I want to go back into the young years of Elias. What kind of started your journey What started your journey to say, you know what, I want to get into this, and what you did to basically hustle and grind to get there?
Yeah,
that to me is a powerful piece.
Yeah, did you know it when you were young? Like, what were you about?
No, I started later than most. I haven't even been doing martial arts in any capacity longer than 10 years. So I actually started after my first year university, going back beforehand. And again, excuse me, this is where I think a lot of my acceptance of defeat comes from.
Yeah.
So I got in a lot of high school fights. I was never necessarily the person that started it, but I was the one that finished it. And that even goes back before I even realized the attention one can get from fighting. So we got to go back to I think it was 2004, give or take. Before I got into a lot of high school fights, some guy tried to pick a fight with me, and I tried to walk away. And his cousin, grabbed me, pulled me, sucker punched me, threw me in, and a light went off, and I just hit him a bunch of times. And, won the fight, and half the school was there, but the other half saw it on a Motorolla Razr that someone videotaped, right?
Hold on, the
So,
Motorolla
yeah,
Razr.
throwback. This is a
Oh
throwback.
my goodness. And that's like the most pixelated
exactly,
video you can imagine.
Exactly. So it's just excuse me, sorry.
Good.
Just a couple of sorry, that went
Yeah,
down
let's
the
do
wrong
it.
way.
Let's do
Have a little bit of ouzo right
Let's
there.
take a little break.
Yeah.
So basically what ended up happening, I got a little phlegm.
Yeah, we got it. It's all good. Take
Got
your
it.
time.
So basically what ended up happening was got attention from that because I went around in school. That was on a Friday. By Monday, I was Mr. Popular. And then this is where I started getting my I started to get the identity of being a fighter, right?
reputation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
How
You
old,
know,
what grade was this?
this was in grade 10.
Grade 10, okay.
So from grade 10 till about grade 12, got in a bunch of high school fights, won them all, thought I was king, thought I was this, that, and the other. Come back from, the first year university, go to the old watering hole, and picked a fight with someone that I shouldn't have. I was inebriated. He was not. It was at a bar, right? So we went outside and, thinking I'm invincible, I try a Superman punch right out of the gate. I slip, I fall.
Yeah.
He kicks me in the face.
Yeah.
While you're down.
While I'm down.
Yeah.
I get up. I rip off my shirt to go run at him. He disappears. Didn't think anything of it. Whatever. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
I go to work. I worked at Foot Locker at the time. And, telling my friends, oh, this crazy thing happened, et cetera, et cetera. And then I go, Elias, another friend comes from that I worked with comes in and he goes, Elias, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. How would you know? Because you weren't there. And he goes, you got kicked in the face last night. And I was like, again, you weren't there. And he goes, it's on YouTube. And I'm like, what's YouTube?
Oh my
And
goodness. This
what's
is a
it
good
called?
intro.
And I'm like, what's YouTube? So I go on it, and lo and behold, think of this. I had like 20 high school fights, undefeated. I think I'm the
And there's a
king's-
crowd.
Yeah.
High school fights
Yeah, exactly.
matter because
Exactly.
you get all the guys that go crazy.
100%.
Most of the
Some
girls
ladies,
are screaming.
guys, whatever.
Yeah, and the girls are
Yep.
screaming like, stop! And
Yep.
Yeah.
But point being, now it goes viral, right? It's like on one of these like YouTube things. So like nearly 1 million people see it in like a week.
my
And I have no idea what the idea of going viral is, right?
right. Yeah.
So what's it called? Devastated. And
my
what's it called?
goodness.
Confide with my father. I'm like, Dad, like
Yeah.
my identity, like this is everything. Like
Yeah.
what do I do? And he goes, well, you love that UFC stuff so much. Why don't you go to a gym and make sure it never happens again?
Wow.
And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go there. I'm going to learn something. Sure enough, I centered myself and I just, went full in less than what's called 10 years. I went from a fan and a very, very green amateur to competing at the highest
What?
levels.
Isn't that
So,
interesting?
Man.
That's
what's it called?
amazing.
From the first day I went to the gym, I became pro 3 years later, give or take, and then from my first pro fight, I became the first Canadian Ultimate Fighter in 3 years. So,
Yeah.
defeat is something I've tasted before, and again on a large scale, like I
Yeah.
did moving forward. But it's one of those things where, again, especially in an individual sport, like I had the best camp moving forward. I had the best camp going into this. I have a great team, great training partners. Sometimes, especially with an individual sport, it all rides on your shoulders because it's at the end of the day you're the one that's in there. So sometimes you just don't put it all together, especially when you're expecting too much of one specific thing. Because, like I mentioned, my opponent knockout artist, was expecting him to come out guns a-blazing. His last 10 fights are all knockouts in the first round or being knocked out, right? So he literally rides by the sword, died by the sword.
Yeah.
But, kudos to him. He's also a national wrestler as well.
Yep.
He actually was able to take down someone like Yoel Romero, who is, a stud. And the only reason why he's not a gold medalist himself is because he actually, threw a fight for money, and why he actually got banned from the Olympics. He's a Olympic world champion 2 times over, and in the gold medal for the Olympics, he forfeited the fight for money. But that's why he's banned for life.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So that again, my opponent took him down. So again, there's a lot to learn from it and a lot to grow from it, because again, at the end of the day, I'm 17-3, and the only 3 losses are to someone like Thiago Santos, Brad Tavares, or Derek Brunson, all in the top 10. So my coach said it really well. Like in the top 10 and higher, it's no longer a game of inches; it's a game of millimeters, and that's what I was dealing with. I didn't readjust, and I learned I'll learn from it and grow from it. C'est la vie.
What's it like being in that moment where you're about to go up someone and fight someone? Like adrenaline, like what's going through your mind? Like
the moments before
when you get a hit, for example, or how it can phase you. I mean, I give an example. Not everyone knows what it's like to get punched, right? I mean, that's what they say. Big guys go down the hardest.
Most people don't.
No, because when they do get punched, they're so phased by the what was that? I mean, some might start crying. Some might they don't know what the feel is.
Even more so, it wasn't necessarily the punch, because I was expecting the punch. I was biting down on my mouth guard. I was ready to go to war, and it was just one of those things where he changed it up. And because it wasn't what I expected and what I visualized, when he took me down right off the bat, it threw me off my game. So, it's a little bit more different than getting hit than something like wrestling. Wrestling, especially with all the stimulus, that when you look up, you see the lights, you hear the crowd. Yeah. There's 17,000 people watching, yelling, cheering, booing, yelling, anything in between, right? So it's a little bit overwhelming, and that's one of the things I'm going to have to, go back to the drawing board. And the fact that, when you get ready for a fight, be ready for anything, because when you sometimes visualize something a million times, 1,000,001, it goes in a different direction. So, that's what it would be. And I didn't get hit in any way, shape, or form that rocked me. It was more in regards to, especially with wrestling, sometimes you can feel like you're drowning.
What do you do to mentally prepare? Like, I mean, I saw you, for example, on TV. You were listening to something. Obviously, you were listening to some. What were you listening to, for examul?
Different music. Whether it was Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, or anything in between.
Yeah. So
Tony Robbins.
to mentally get into anything that you're doing, to get into that focus. Like, do you have a routine that you do? Like, look, we talk about different variances about getting that mental piece put in place, right? The mental training, right? Is there anything that you do as a routine to kind of get you into that mind frame?
Well, it starts shutting off. Like, I turn my phone on airplane mode and just kind of cancel out the distractions for the most part. I think obviously being the co-main event, there's more responsibility in regards to the media. So I think some of it I almost was spread a little too thin. And again, not making any excuses. It was a great opportunity. And I just kind of said yes to everything and everyone. So there were some distractions in that capacity.
And those can all stack up really quickly.
Oh, for sure. It chip away. But I think also, again, being so fresh in like 48 hours is when the fight was, give or take. I think I didn't necessarily warm up as much as I needed to, because I'm more of the type of fighter that needs to warm up, and I looked better the longer it goes, because I wasn't as warm, I think, as I could have been. Part of it was it took longer for me to kind of get in the headspace, especially in the first round. But, 2 of the judges scored it 29-28, which mean it was really just that last slam that kind of, kind of put it away in his favor.
Right.
I outstruck him.
Right.
And, it wasn't necessarily exactly what I imagined. But, again, on my worst days, I lose in a decision to top 10 fighters. I am still proud of what I've been able to accomplish inside the cage and out. And, everyone falls, and it's just on those that really can separate themselves to get right back up, and that's what I plan on doing.
It's amazing. Like what you're everything that you're saying right now shows you're a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't matter if you win. See
Yeah.
the difference?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're a winner. You
Right.
just the way that you think, the way you approach it. Just to put stuff up like so quick about it, you're honored with your team to take this experience and sink your teeth into the next thing, and like that's amazing, man. Stuff like that is so good. Like to be able to bounce back, and we know it's not just lip service with you. Like you really appreciate where you are.
Mm-hmm.
What a story about like to eat a huge humble pie, YouTube humble pie off of a razor.
Yeah.
A publicized, I guess, defeat in a way. It's amazing. But like it's isn't it funny how life kind of gives you that?
For sure.
And you have that. So like anything else, it's pretty easy now. You can go in, and you're gonna have another fight and another fight, and you can train and prepare. I want to ask you, when you go in, do you like just some simple stuff? Do you eat the day of?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You want to time it out, though, obviously. Like, my last real meal, like, for instance, I didn't go out till about 10 o'clock. My last, like, big meal was somewhere around 3, 4 o'clock. So there is a span of time that you want to digest everything. And,
Yeah.
I was just making sure that I was keeping hydrated.
Yeah.
Mm.
How did you, when you're in your change room before you go out, what are you doing? Are you talking? Are you completely like solitary in your mind? What do you do?
A little bit of column A, column B. Like I said, I cancel out a lot of the noise with putting everything on airplane mode.
Isn't it funny? Like for a fighter, the one foe that you gotta put aside is the phone.
100%.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
That shows the power of it, though.
100%.
Like it
100%.
literally it's drawing from you.
It's mine's vibrating right now, and I'm
It's
itching.
like
I'm just
telling you.
itching to look at it.
Yeah.
But point being, what I was gonna say, it's going through what we worked on. Again, one of the more important things is to do is, we all have self-doubt. We all have this, that, and the other. I am, was completely ready. It's just unfortunately sometimes all the things that you kind of bring to the fight didn't necessarily come with you into the cage.
Yeah.
But again, the guy that I fought is 8th in the world for a reason. So it's one of those cases where I tried to shoot up. Now I'm gonna fight someone else and prove that I still belong in the top 15, and then just jump right back in there.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where, again, if I didn't accept certain things, like certain takedowns, I accepted it. It's almost like, again, the stimulus that I talked about. You're almost like one step too slow, like a second too slow.
Yeah.
Where he got my hips, and I'm like, oh, he got my hips. Now I almost was waiting to see what he was doing next, rather than saying, no, I'm not going to do this. No, you're not going to get that. No, you're not going to do that. No, it's my turn, right?
Which is amazing. You could see the composure. Yeah, I mean, you carry it. Like, not everyone gets moments in life where they see what they're made of, right?
True.
Right?
Been tested.
Yeah, you're tested. Like,
Yeah.
and if you're tested by Toronto traffic, there's so much more to life.
True.
For real. If
True.
just that one little cutoff or
Yeah.
that bike, that guy was just a little too aggressive. And guys, like, you see people flipping out. There's so much more to life than to put it all on. Those are your stakes. What I love about your composure, there's times when he was on your neck and you were so relaxed. Like, it was amazing. Like, I love, like, there's no way to know what's going on with you because you're literally like a machine. You're kind of like a Kawhi Leonard. I mean, hence, the hair and everything.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's almost, it is, I guess people are looking, like, they want to see people get really emotional. What I appreciate about the way you fight is so methodical. And I can tell that you have a game plan and you're just trying to execute, and you're just trying to, that whole chess game inside and out. Why I ask about the eating is because a lot of people, they get nervous.
They can't eat.
They can't eat. Whether
Yeah.
it's an exam, their driving test, whatever,
Right.
the most simple thing. When you come out, do you hear the noise? Do you hear the crowd? When you walk out of that tunnel, what are you aware of right now? And does it feed it? Like,
I would say it feeds it. Again, I started as a fan first and foremost, and to the fact that
that's
I
cool.
have fans is still a surreal aspect. I pinch myself every day because I still wake up and do what I love, and that's what I'm going to take kind of from this experience. That I'm still lucky enough to compete at the highest level, and healthy too. Like, even with that slam, there wasn't really much other than a little bit of a bruised ego, and
Yeah.
part of that will be in the next couple days I'll just lick my lick my wounds, even though they're more inside than out in any way, shape, or form. And at the after party, I had about 150 friends and family, and another 150 people that are again fans. The
Yeah.
idea that fans that came out to party with me, and
That's
it was
awesome.
a really cool feeling. And the shout out to the Moscow Tea Room for holding the after party.
Nice.
I didn't get the victory, but definitely still partied like winners, right?
Yeah.
Had bottles flowing and
The
good
Moscow,
times.
the Moscow Tea Room.
Yeah.
Do they serve tea?
I guess everything but tea.
It's hilarious. I love it. What a name.
It was a great lounge. It was a beautiful place, and
Yeah.
we had like a whole private VIP section,
Yeah.
and then it was so many people came that I was like, let's just take it to the main floor. Let's just whatever, and I was just partying with everyone out there because there was too many people.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
let us know when you need private security.
There you go.
As your career grows, we got some capable guys. So,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are all the people in your circle, like your family, girlfriends, girlfriend?
Girlfriend. Let's clear that.
Yeah,
Let's clear that up
exactly,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I threw the S in there. Are they all supportive with
Yep.
everything that you're doing? And do they? A lot of times I find family specifically wants you to do a certain thing. I mean, obviously your dad said try out the UFC, right? So you had his full
That's
endorsement.
gangster. Is that?
Yeah,
exactly.
Is that like a Greek grit?
Yeah,
For
Is
sure.
that what it is?
Exactly.
He's like, look, you like this, do it so it never happens
This
again.
again. Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly. I mean,
Because it's his last name, right? It's his
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's right. That's right. I mean, how's that been? Just dealing with the relationships with your family and your girlfriend, obviously, and what you're doing and where you want to go. Has it been like for them a lot of sacrifice in dealing with you having to do with your sacrifice, right? All the time and commitment that you put into something. Are you there to balance as well on the other side? Like, how's that been?
Yeah, obviously interesting. I have a very supportive girlfriend. We joke. It kind of works out best because, sometimes we live together in Toronto, and then I'll go to Montreal closer to my camp, like the end of camp and part of camp. So for weeks, months at a time, all collectively, right? But we joke about she likes me in doses, so it kind of all works out. No, again, she totally understands it. She understands that it's a selfish sport, and she's there with me for the success and for the failures. I haven't lost in 2.5 years prior to this, so I'm looking forward to the next 2.5 or plus years moving forward. So, and again, my parents are stupid supportive. Obviously, originally they didn't quite understand it because I do have a degree in advertising. I have I had the opportunity from going from my internship to a career in advertising, but I was able to put it all together in the capacity of as a athlete. Partnering with big brands, whether it's I've worked with Samsung, I've worked with Mattel. I was responsible for rebooting the Rock'em Sock'em Robot game.
Oh, yeah?
Remember that?
Yeah.
So I was sponsored by Mattel for Rock'em Sock'em Robots for last Christmas. Also, I was the first MMA fighter in the UFC to get a shampoo deal with Per Plus.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Do you know? As soon as you said that, do you know what do you know what the very first thing popped into my head was?
That part in the middle when they're shampooing
Do
their
you
hair.
ever watch Coming to America where they were
Yes.
doing Soul Glow?
Oh, yes,
Soul
yes.
Glow. The minute I saw that, I just saw you just massaging your hair. with
So,
shampoo.
and then moving into this one, I also I actually partnered with Coors Light,
Nice.
Coors Edge to be specific. It's good. It's really exciting because it actually fits within the narrative that I'm going to be able to So my unorthodox style, whatever like that. I pride myself of kind of calling myself. You guys remember Jackie Chan's movie, The Drunken Master?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So we have a whole campaign, The Undrunken Master, coming out. What's it called? Because it's a non-alcoholic beer is what I'm going to be partnering with them.
Undrunken
Because the idea is you don't need alcohol to unleash your inner master.
Right.
So again, even when I'm losing, I'm coming out with blue chip money.
There you go, man.
That's amazing. It's so good.
We were talking to Sean Pearson
The undrunken
a couple
master.
episodes ago. Sean was with the UFC for a couple of years.
Yep.
What is the lifespan in the UFC? Meaning, as in, I mean, you can go as far as you want, but your body takes a very different set of beating than it would be if you were like in I don't know, basketball or
yeah.
something,
Or
right?
accounting.
Right?
Accounting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
You know.
the most important things I haven't been knocked out, right? Like that's part of it. Like I've had 20 fights, and where I feel my body is, I could have another 20 more,
Nice.
right? Obviously, the caliber of fighters are a little bit further, and whether it's the case of other fighters have necessarily stayed in the UFC the whole time. I'm obviously in the UFC now and plan to be for quite some time.
Nice.
But I kind of see myself, have still about 3, 4, 5 more years left in regards to my fight moving forward.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things where, again, if you're talking about statistically speaking, and like actual, if you want to look at the science behind it, speed goes first, and that's usually the lighter weight classes, right?
Right.
So power goes last. So you have someone like George Foreman, obviously, historically speaking, that can come back at 40 and win the title, right? Because power goes last. So all he needs is to land that big friggin' hand
Yes.
once or twice, right? So someone like in a middleweight, the average median weight class in the 185 division is about 36, 35. So
Okay, wow. Yeah.
I still have about 4 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
again, if my defeats are these ones where there's not much damage in it, just kind of outsmarted the night of, then there's many more opportunities moving forward. But
Nice, man.
obviously just going to look at it case by case and step by step, and the first step is getting back in the gym after this week, like I said, kind of licking my wounds and still being a little bit human. I'm going to have some food, I'm going to hang out with some friends, have a couple of beers, but
Nice, man.
honestly, it was
Be
just
human. I told you.
Yeah.
See, he's a machine. I told you he's a machine.
Yeah.
You got to do human things.
Exactly.
Just to blend.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But again, like the kind of time frame that I'm looking at is they already announced just leading up to it a July 27th fight in what's called Edmonton. So that's tentatively what I'm looking at. Again, it's one of those things where I got to double check. I'm going to go see my doctor, just gonna have a full checkup, et cetera, because, I did get slammed and want to check out because, again, there's little things that could add up, right? Like, I'm pretty sure it's more of like a back spasm on the right side rather than my actual spine.
Yeah.
But just make
make
sure,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because then
Absolutely,
those are the
man.
things that could, again, curtail a career if I kind of look past potential back injury and kind of it adds up, right? So
take
just
care
being
of them.
smart of it. Yeah, but luckily again I had not one but 2 physiotherapists coming with me to the fight, and my body leading up to this was the best it's been. In regards to any type of injuries, et cetera. So again, as I mentioned, the sun will rise another day, and honestly, I still have a smile on my face.
You do, man.
Yeah,
Very happy
I think
one.
no matter what, you're gonna have a smile.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
it's good. Being human. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Everything that everything that you've been exposed to. You have these endorsements, and kind of what is the potential. From this viewpoint, if you literally had to rewind the clock and start again, but you didn't fight, what would you be doing?
I'd probably jump again in the advertising industry because what I've been doing is kind of advertising the brand that is myself, right? So either way, I've essentially been a boutique ad agency for the last little bit where the product is myself. So I can take my resume, when it's all said and done in the next 5 years, I could take my resume and walk into an ad agency and say, look what I was able to do.
Absolutely.
What's called individually, and here's the blue chip sponsors and partners that I've been able to do, and et cetera, and also again possibly even managing what's it called other up and coming fighters, because I can show hey, this is the roadblock to get yourself from not only a pro fighter to the UFC, but literally walking into the gym and being an ultimate fighter in 5 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
From student to teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. You also do some acting.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things I was reading about, which I thought was, what is it? The Red Door and Lemon Tree?
Yep.
That actually sparked my interest, man. That's a really cool thing.
Looks
that you're
like a
trying to
really
do.
cool project.
Yeah, I'm
and
really excited.
King Minos.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I had to go American. I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, we're alternating.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you really Greek? Is there like a Greek test that we could see for us?
So first of all, you have the
you know
hair
what? There's probably an app on to see how Greek you are.
yeah, exactly. Feta cheese.
Exactly. That's all that comes up.
That's right. Tell us about that, man, because that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
And you're going to Crete for
I'm
that?
going to Crete to
Oh
film it.
my
Poor
God,
me, right?
man. Wow.
So I get to lick my
Going
wounds
where?
in Crete.
He's going to Crete, man. Crete.
I don't know.
Basically, it's a beautiful island. What's it called?
I don't know.
Where
Scarborough.
yeah, I'm gonna go to a beautiful island to film a Hollywood movie, and what's it called? I play King Minos, as mentioned, the first king of Greece, Crete rather. I play a very important role in the apex of the film.
Yes.
Without giving up too much.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm the the gatekeeper of the underworld. So that again, it's a very important part.
Yeah.
The hair's involved in too. Yes, the hair's involved in too.
amazing.
That's the
so
first thing.
sick,
So
man.
Crete's an island. And,
Yep,
and
it's one of
Beautiful.
beautiful
Yeah,
islands.
yeah.
What's it called? The director and writer, she's been sending me, throughout the fight, a whole bunch of locations, and I'm like, because again, like, there's a whole component of it
Yeah.
that I don't want to
Yeah.
ruin, but the way to explain it, it's a romantic comedy with a fantasy twist, obviously.
Right.
Okay, nice.
And that starts filming this
That
month?
film's June. I'll be there June 3rd to probably 10th, 12th.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah,
man.
I'm so excited.
I'm like really looking forward for you. And I'm not even going. I'm thinking how amazing that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Wow.
So like again, that one's
Hey,
gonna
don't be
for.
surprised. He's been known to pop up on set every now and then.
Hey, stranger
He
things
just-
that happen.
he
The
might
more than
just be
welcome.
there.
Look,
He might
if I
be
remember
there.
correctly, I think I asked you this way back when. But do you? I mean, obviously your parents spoke Greek in the household, and did you ever pick up the language? Because I know it's kind of getting lost right now. Like my kids, for example, 11 and 13. I think I sent my daughter to Greek school in JK, and then I pulled her out afterwards. I just whatever. So
Unfortunately, it's about the same with me. Like I can understand it, and like again, because all my family is Greek,
Yeah.
so there's a nice blend of Gringlish, is what I like to call it. So like what's it called? It bounces back and forth,
Yes.
and as long as I know what the conversation we're talking about,
Yeah.
I know exactly what we're talking about.
sure.
But it's not comfortable enough because I
Yes.
don't do it. But between that and also French, I definitely need to. That's actually kind of the plan to kind of reinvent the wheel in that capacity and in regards to my own ability.
I'll tell you this: when you go to Crete, I guarantee you, because it's going to be all over,
Yep.
man. You're
Yep.
gonna pick up something. It's like honestly, your mind's going to rewire back.
Yeah, because you're immersed.
Yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
you're going to go back there.
Yeah,
Well,
Greek school, go to Greece or take Greek school on Saturdays.
Well, what
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
do is you were joking about an app. I'm actually going to there's a Duolingo, and I'm just going to honestly just reteach myself because again, it's like riding a book,
That's right.
riding a bike rather.
Yeah.
What's it called? And it just needs to again
Get familiar.
different things. Where French is the opposite. What's it called? It's not necessarily a language to me, but because I went to school for I went to school and what's called learn French in school.
Yeah.
I can read French, but I
Yes.
can't speak it.
Yes,
where it's
yes.
like more the other way with Greek.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's just jumping right back on that bike and running with it. And
Good, man.
Luckily, I got a whole family that
Amazing,
speaks it.
amazing. Is any of your family going to come down as well when you go to Crete, or is it just?
My parents actually fly out. They're retired now, so
Yeah.
they're going to be going to Greece for 4 months.
Sick.
oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
actually, this
that's so good.
the flight to the first one to Crete is probably just going to be more business. So I'm just going to go there and
Yeah.
probably pop back because
Yeah.
I want to fight. Whereas after I win the next one, what's it called? They'll still be in Greece.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to fly them out to the fight in Edmonton.
Nice.
And then I'll fly back out with them for like a month in Greece
Amazing.
afterwards.
There
so
you go, man.
what's it called? The first trip this year will be for business. The next one definitely for pleasure.
There you
Good.
go.
Oh, a nice month after. It's a good
Yeah.
plan. Good
Good,
plan.
man. We're going to look out for that. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and like what's called, if you've seen any of the IMDb, what's called the really cool person that's on the cast that I'm really excited for is Mr. Peterman from Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the director in the film because it's a really interesting film. I've read the script and it's amazing.
Red Door, Lemon Tree, and Lemon Tree.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Peterman.
Very interesting title. Very interesting title. Kind of lures you in. Like, what is that about? Interesting. Now, also, I want to talk about, because you are an advocate for, I guess, marijuana use.
Yes.
So, in light of everything that's happening right now, where it's all legal right now, and they're setting up shops everywhere and all that kind of stuff, what kind of? Because I know you obviously you're an advocate for it. What was like some of the things that you basically it hit you where you felt like it was a good opportunity to
Well,
especially
so
with the sport, you know what I mean?
exactly. So I basically have what's called bilateral neuropathic pain, and it kind of explains why I've, reapproached in regards to my fighting style. Because again, I basically have nerve damage in my upper extremities, my wrists and my elbows to be exact. So part of the reason why I have such an unorthodox style is because I'm trying to avoid the what's it called stressors that the nerve damage has.
Very
right?
interesting.
So.
Okay.
Is that consciously or do you think
Consciously.
Yeah,
Consciously.
yeah.
So, again, even though, for instance, prohibition in Canada has been removed, it doesn't mean that access to cannabis is actually for everyone. For instance, not only athletes like myself, but other types of first responders and what's it called, union workers and stuff like that, who have a stigma as well, where it's not treated as medicine like other what's called first line medicines. So specifically in regards to what I'm fighting for what's called a therapeutic use exemption. So being able to use my medicine as prescribed by my doctor until weigh-ins. That way, because right now you're basically the way it kind of works is you're basically tested, and the way the drug testing is it finds in your fat soluble, so you actually have to stop using it much earlier, where again, the lack of medical quality and the capacity of the aspect, someone can have Vicodin in their system, someone can have an opioid in their system, and it wouldn't be an issue. Whereas if cannabis was in my system, I'd be suspended for 2 years, up to 2 years, right? So again, what I'm fighting for is medical equality, and my case will set precedent not only for myself but all other athletes under the Olympic testing pool moving forward. So
they're very close-minded, basically.
It's an outdated mindset, and part of it also is the fact that. With United States Anti-Doping Agency, the company that the UFC partnered with, it's a U.S. company, and the U.S. still has cannabis as a Schedule I drug, which means they look at it as the same as heroin, and there's no medical property to it, and that's the uphill battle that I'm fighting. Even to the point where the organization says, yes, we understand, we agree you have your medical condition, but we want you to exhaust all other medical options. So they want me to take opioids, they want me to take painkillers, they want me to take all these other options, where again, it's not only the fact that they don't work with me as good or as well in regards to my condition, it's also the side effects afterwards. So for instance, Lyrica is one of them that they want to take. I take Lyrica, and within a week I'll add 10 to 15 pounds of inflammation, constipation, and everything in between. Now imagine you're constipated and you got to get punched in the stomach for a living. So again, there's other side effects that add to it. But it's a process and an uphill battle I'm determined to fight. I've already kind of the way, again, I believe in clean sport. I believe in, USADA and all it stands for, WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, and the larger company above that. It's just this one specific outdated mindset where it's considered a prohibited substance and looked at the same as HGH or testosterone, is because of the classification. And again, the hypocrisy where they, for instance, the company, the organization rather, will have this anti-opioid commercial, but yet tell me to take more opioids to prove that cannabis is better for me. So it's, one hand doesn't necessarily talk to the other. And excuse me, I'm kind of, again, going into this at a competitive disadvantage because of that, but it's something that I always still look to prevail. And there's a couple of new developments. I can't go into them just now, but closer than ever. And if all goes well, by the time I get into the cage next time, it will be the case where I do get my therapeutic use exemption, and I'll be able to compete at 100%. And
what's the benefit that you experience when you?
Well, so we have over 80, I think it's over 85 cannabinoid receptors. So the reason why people have opioid overdoses is because we don't have receptors for it. It actually hacks your brain. It hacks the serotonin. It hacks the whatever the module that it goes, where we have what's called opioid receptors, like I mentioned. And the best way to describe that, think of your spine as a highway, right? And it gets the information traveling from the whatever car that it's driving along. And the exits are, where from the spine to the rest of your information goes to the whether it's the joint, the finger, the this, that, and the other. So I have essentially car pileups in different directions on those exits, right? So anti-inflammatory components basically are cleared up, and I'm able to be more in tune. Whereas, again, it's a lot about the side effects or what I'm not wanting to put my body through.
How long have you had that for?
I've had it for the better part of 2-3 years. And
really?
It's kind of explained why I've kind of changed my my style in some ways. In many ways, I was more the grinder, and putting someone up against a cage and just trying to break them mentally and physically there. and ground and pound. And then I was able to change up my style and kind of be this unorthodox person who kind of like in some ways would confuse my opponent
Right.
and then take what I want. But obviously, fighting a very skilled opponent like I did, he didn't allow me to confuse him, and I was left being the person kind of confused in some capacity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's part of, again, going back to the drawing board, and also, fighting the fight that I'm doing in regards to cannabis as well.
I mean, it's crazy how it connects. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very interesting, and to me, I mean, I'm actually really proud that you're taking that stand. I mean, a lot of things are basically put in place without, like you said, old school style mentalities, right? I mean, they used to tell us back in the day having 7 to 8 servings of grains, and I mean, was the healthy thing,
and then 10 years ago, tomatoes were bad for you,
or
but
drinking,
now they're amazing.
Yeah,
for
or
you.
having milk as a
source
when it's actually like studies will prove the opposite, that you're basically just putting mucus down your system.
What are they doing to us?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Well, again, a lot of it's trial and error, and obviously, a lot of it is also everybody and every body is different, right? Like milk
Oh,
can
I
be.
like that. That's a
milk-
T-shirt too.
There you go.
Everybody and
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's true.
Yeah.
What's it called? So basically, part of that is like, for instance, like milk. Some people are lactose intolerant. Some
Right.
people aren't.
Right.
So it's in many ways figuring out what works best for your body. So I know because of my doctor that medical cannabis is right for me, and it's the better option, especially because of the harmful side effects and also the addictive property. I don't want to be, cannabis has never resulted in any overdose because, again, those same cannabinoid receptors that we talked about, in order to actually quote unquote overdose, you have to actually smoke in one sitting 2.5 times your body weight, which is physically impossible.
goodness.
Right. So
Wow.
like that's the difference. Where like a handful
Okay.
of pills can kill you.
Yeah, I know. I want to ask. I'm going to bring the conservative mentality stigma. There's a stigma with marijuana. There's this huge conversation going on with it right now. For some, it's a big deal. Others, it's like, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
So, understandably, the stigma is, when you think of it traditionally, the wrong people did the wrong thing. They would sneak behind the portable, or they'd be, in that, like, they would lock themselves away to smoke, right? Everyone knows that young guy who was bright-eyed and so ready for school, and then after a year or a summer or whatever, he ended up just being a weed head. Okay, mellowed out, never kind of there. So, I mean, like, there's obviously abuse, right? Like, alcohol.
For sure.
Just look at, take any Friday, Saturday in any major city, you see the way people are with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
There's incredible abuse, but others, they have a good social time with it. It's not, So if just, what would you say to that? What would you say just to that thinking of, the stigma of marijuana?
Well, I think you said it just right in regards to bringing up alcohol. I think, as I mentioned, every body is different and we're wired different ways. If you want to look at it statistically speaking, we have the highest youth cannabis rate in the world, right? So part of that also explains why it was easier to get cannabis than it was alcohol here in Ontario. I don't know about you guys. It was easier to get cannabis because, again, of the black market that surrounded it, right? I'm a big believer that, especially when one's growing, they should, obviously look to allow their mind to develop. And I'm still, even with recreational cannabis, I'm still a believer in medical cannabis for that reason, because I look at it, for the most part, as a medicine, right?
Yeah.
And part of that, the stigma comes with the fact that it was illegal, but one needs to understand where that illegality came from. It came from racist laws. So originally, what they were trying to combat, there was a really rich man named William Randall Hearst. He owned all the cotton mills, and he also owned all the newspapers. So when he heard what hemp was, and that that it was the new billion-dollar crop, he used his propaganda machines, newspapers, to basically put racist propaganda in there, and said that it was giving black and brown people superhuman strength to attack people, because that's where the term marijuana comes from.
Never heard of
It's
that.
a scary. It's a marijuana is a foreign sounding name, which basically means
almost sounds Greek.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. So should we say it like that? Where especially when essentially the aspect of, if you the racist component of it and the spooky language of it. It was essentially a derogatory term meaning a poor man's tobacco, but it was linked to black and brown people, and it was they were spreading lies and saying that it was giving them superhuman strength, and they were attacking people. So people freaked out because of the racism that kind of occurred at the time. They put laws to kind of curtail that, and then you have to go look no further than the whether it's the war on drugs and other type of criminalization of cannabis, where especially in America, when they put what's called the 13th Amendment, which basically made African Americans equal because their Constitution originally made them 3/5 a man, right? They were 3/5 a person, which is crazy. Again, just crazy. That was in their Constitution. So the 13th Amendment basically allowed them to, not have any slaves unless they're criminals. So this is just criminalizing something they did. And if you go to Richard Nixon, it came out in his tapes that they recently published. He knew that he couldn't, again, with the anti-war movement, he knew he couldn't throw black people and hippies in jail, but I can throw them in jail for doing something that they do that other people don't. And that was cannabis.
Wow.
So again, it's all racist laws.
Perfect recipe.
Exactly, all perfect laws, and that's why if you look at the non-violent drug offense. What's it called? Statistics in the States, African Americans are, I think, 20 to 30% higher in regards to being arrested, 20 or 30% higher in regards to their actual crime sentence, and even for the exact same sentence.
In terms of severity. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's powerful, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's interesting how one thing can just open up this world and what we've inherited and what we don't know, what's true, what's not true.
Yeah, and especially when you look at it, the aspect of, race in some way is just a social construct that we put together. It's nothing more than geography and melatonin, right? Like if, it called? Like some people with a little bit more sun in different direction, right? And then there is biologically a component in the capacity of part of the reason why we have first impressions and all this and that is because when we were, thousands of years ago, if you see someone from a different tribe, they might be trying to come in and conquer you, right? Yeah. So that there's these genetic components that are part of it but now fast track to where we are today, enlightened people, we're all the same people. That's right. It's just constructs that, again, that I would argue that, different elites have put together in regards to what's called separating us. There's a great quote by Lyndon B. Johnson when he talked about basically racism and what it all chalks up to, and he basically said, "You give me the untrodden, or you give me a low white person that I can tell him that he's better than a higher black person, then he will let me pick his pockets while I let him pick the other person's pocket." So again, it's just we're just dividing ourselves when we're all the same. Again, it's all race in itself is just a social construct. But again, we have to learn from obviously the mistakes of the past.
Interesting.
And we've got to realize exactly it's control. They did the same thing. For instance,
that is fear. You do that because of fear. You're afraid.
Yep, 100%. And also, if you look at like Rwanda, for instance, the difference between the two people, because again, the Dutch that went in there, they kind of, with all their pseudoscience, tried to find something different, and they didn't. You know what they did? They just gave one group of people one goat and one group of people two goats, and then they hated each other because of the fact that they were economically higher than each other, and that's where the basis of all that genocide came from in Rwanda.
That's the root of it.
Two goats versus one. It's ridiculous. Right. Again, race is a construct that certain elites have put together to basically divide the average person from each other.
Wow. I mean, it just shows. I mean.
Yeah, you've gone deep, man. That's amazing. And obviously you're very passionate about it as well. I mean, you have a lot of information on this.
I hate hate.
Right.
In general, right? And
that's
again,
another T-shirt. That's a T-shirt.
We can open up a T-shirt
exactly.
shop.
We'll have an online store after this all.
Yeah.
But no, again, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. If not, let it rhyme on you. Yeah. Right. So again. everyone looks at the world differently, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of the way I look at it. I love everyone equally.
What's something
that's
that
awesome.
what's something that people
That's
don't know
another
about
T-shirt
you?
too. I love everyone equally. Elias, this is
Or hate everyone equally. It goes either way. You can have the positive.
Yeah, maybe it's like a Velcro attachment.
Exactly.
Depending on
Whatever
how your day
Monday.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Use promo code 7412. What's something that people don't know about you?
I think I'm trying to think what they don't know, because again, it's kind of hard to kind of separate yourself from like, well, I know everything about me for the most part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about your blind spot. Like that's
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I guess people would probably be surprised how honest I am.
Right.
I guess
Yeah.
that would be something that something like this loss can help me kind of put out there. And,
Right.
Obviously, when you're willing to put yourself out there in such a raw, real way, not everyone has the same kind of bad days at work that I do, right? It's on such a public stage. And then
Right.
especially, people that have never been in the cage, they have the biggest, opinion on it in some capacity. But for the most part, I've actually, even some of the hate that I've gotten, I've been able to translate it into love, because again, I'm going to be the first honest person about it, where, it wasn't my best day at work, but the difference between my bad day at work, you get to go home and eat a, bowl of ice cream, whereas mine, I could be potentially memeable. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I most importantly, the way I look at it is I didn't get knocked the hell out, and I get to kind of learn from it. A loss like this allows you so much to kind of learn and grow from it.
Right. When you do, I guess, settle down and want to have kids, okay? And you have a son.
plural.
Kids. Yeah, exactly.
Girlfriends. kids.
That's right. Yeah. And you have a son, and he basically wants to follow in the footsteps, and he says, "I want to be a fighter." What would your thoughts be on that? Would you feel comfortable with that? Would you guide him in a different direction? What would be your initial thoughts on that?
Obviously want them to do what they want to do, but definitely baseball's where I do. Have you seen those $250 million
I know.
contracts? That's what we're doing. If I have a daughter, it's baseball. If I have a son, it's baseball. If it's a daughter, it's tennis. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But in all seriousness, no, I've been with my girlfriend for many years now, and that's kind of the game plan in the next couple of years.
For sure.
But it's one of those things where, obviously, I'm a selfish sport, and we're just kind of just making sure, in the next year or two, where we kind of plan on being, and having a lot of the selfishness kind of dried up in
Yes.
some capacity, and
Yes.
moving forward. But and again, throwing out some statistics, I'm probably going to have a daughter. Is the way it's all going to work out. I know it's 100% going to be a daughter.
And she could be fierce, because some of them-
Fierce as hell, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. She
Yeah.
could still be a fighter.
And again, I would
And her
teach
hair-
him or
and-
her to be what's it called, powerful, both mentally and physically.
And she will have the best hair. in the
Exactly,
UFC.
exactly.
That's amazing, man. Look, I mean, to me, again, it's something that you cannot fake. You have authentic written all over you, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, and I mean, to me, you don't have to do this in person. You can see this; it comes out of you. You can tell when someone's putting a cover on. You know what I mean? You can tell when someone's being fake. You can
'cause
tell
it's work. It takes work.
Absolutely, but I mean, the passion, the attitude, the humility. We talk about this all the time
Yeah.
about having a humble, teachable spirit.
Thirst for knowledge,
Yeah.
just to be learning constantly,
That is an edge. That is an edge,
Yeah.
man. And that actually takes out a lot of people. I mean, in all industries, that takes out a lot of people. So the fact that you have this incredible attitude, man, that to me is one of the ingredients to your success.
Yeah, it's so
thanks so
good.
much.
Like if no one knows their career, how long it's going to be, especially in the UFC. As you said, you have no idea. The next, training camp, you could do something wrong. Okay, what's amazing about you is you're not defined by it. It's just so cool. It's so cool to hear how. If you told us in 2 years you're doing this, we'd be like, oh, amazing. 20 years you're doing this, amazing. Because it's like you're set up for life.
Right.
Like the way you think, you're set up for life. It doesn't have to be just here. Like you never know. You might have a huge marketing firm, or you rewrite the way you rewrite, I guess, the agency agreement, the way that you work with your managers. Because like you have that type of mentality that it's better for you, and people around you get better. And I say that just because there's a next fighter. There's some people, I always find it interesting that you guys could be going toe-to-toe. You're selfless, you're learning, you're humble, and then the other guy could be the exact opposite,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still in the same place,
Right.
right? So just being cocky, arrogant, not grateful, that guy still might be going for the title fight right up against you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the difference is how happy you are, and who's around you, right? And do you have like those moments like mom and dad flying to Edmonton, and that whole, we're around very successful people in the industry that we're in. Some of the most successful that I've been in close proximity with are the most miserable.
Mm.
Okay, and their life is hollow. They have like, they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. We've had billionaire clients too, and you notice, I've noticed that it's not about money. It's not about success. What we, as the average public, think about what you go through. I think what you create your own success. You create your own kind of situation and scenario where like, I'm content, I'm happy, I'm grateful. I'm honored to have people that are on this journey with me. I'm grateful for fans that will celebrate me after, even though I lost. You know what I mean? Like all these things like make it sweet. To think that like you're just gonna only have ideal, perfect moments like in a movie, to like check off and be like, yeah, my life is great, in order to be happy. Do we know people who are miserable because they don't get what they want?
All the time, man.
Okay, so
All
what's
the
the
time.
answer to that? You don't get what you want. What's the answer?
I mean, put that on a T-shirt, I guess.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but does it really help?
Yeah, no, it
is them
doesn't.
getting what they want make them happy?
Absolutely not.
I mean, test it with kids.
Yes.
If your 7-year-old or
Yeah.
17-year-old wants this, does that make it better for them? Just
Absolutely
because they
not.
get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's just I kudos to you for just having the mentality you're gonna go with everything after it. But even if you don't, there's something else out there for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
thank
right.
you so much. Again, I think kind of coming at mixed martial arts as a blank canvas, I've always looked at myself that way, right? In regards
that's
to,
key. Yeah.
like again, one of my strengths is the aspect that, even though I don't have necessarily, like for instance, I have only been doing 9 years of martial arts, where my opponent has been in a wrestling mat since he was 9.
Yes.
Right, and he's 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
So the fact that he has 25 plus years in regards to what's called experience and whatnot, it's one of those things where, again, you take it for what it is, and you got to be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, it's you that's going in there. So I could lie to myself. I could lie to myself all I want, but when it all comes together, the next fight, if I wasn't honest to myself, it'll show
Yeah.
in a very honest way,
And
right?
you'll
Right.
know it. You'll know it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'll know it. And again, I whether it's love or hate, as long as people pay attention. Indifference is the worst thing in my industry, right? Them not caring about you, right? So whether people want to see me to a success or failure, again, I'll just keep doing me, because no one can take away what I've already done. 20 fights, I'm 17-3, and my worst days, for instance, like my first loss, then I was able to kind of, again, that was obviously much worse in the capacity of my identity as I was undefeated up until there.
Yes.
Right. So I was undefeated for the longest time, and then because I always looked at it like, oh, I always win. But when I didn't win, I kind of looked at it where it's like, oh, that guy's knocked out everyone he stepped in the cage.
Right.
For instance, he's fighting John Jones next. That's the guy that my first loss, I took him to a split decision where it was just basically he, again, kind of similar to the last fight where they kind of pulled away with one single thing that kind of left, and the judges, the last one was close.
The tipping point, yeah.
Yeah, right. So again, Derek Brunson, it was a slam. That guy, for instance, he elbowed me and it kind of cut me. So
Yes.
again, some blood.
Yeah.
But that guy has knocked out everyone. He's tied for the top knockouts ever in UFC history.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So he is a savage, and I took every single punch, kick, throw that he kind of put at me, and I survived. You know what I mean? And it was a close fight. So again, I've shown myself many times over that I'm so close there. It's just how you're able to kind of pick yourself up on a bad day's work.
That's good, man. Look, before we wrap up, I want to
Love
ask
it.
you a question. People are listening to this. People are going to be looking at this. What's the message you're going to give to someone that wants to get there? And that getting there could be in the UFC or just making their story a success. What would be, in your opinion, the advice you'd give, the ingredients?
Showing up is the first and most important thing, right? Like people ask me all the time, how do I become a UFC fighter? Show up at the gym, right? Because there's a whole bunch of people like, no, but how do I get to the... Show up at the gym.
Such a good answer.
Yeah.
Such a
So
good
simple.
answer.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
But
Yeah.
again,
it's a
those are
preface
building
for
blocks.
everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Those are the building blocks. Whatever it ends up being, just show up.
Amazing. Well, look, man, thank you so much for actually coming down here. It's absolutely been a learning lesson. It's been very insightful, and it's been very inspiring. Okay,
Yeah.
to basically hear your story, man, and what you're doing and what you're gonna do. And at the end of the day, you've blessed us as the first Greek guest on the show. Okay, so we have Elias Theodorou, the Greek Spartan,
Yes.
and standing in the six. And again, thank you so much for coming down, man. It's an absolute privilege.
The feeling's mutual.
Now's
Thank
a
you
good
so much.
time to maybe
Oh.
that. There you go.
There you go, man. Thanks very much, buddy. All right, take care.
Thanks, brother.
Listen to this episode on iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to drop by next week. And don't forget to subscribe.
Let's go!
It's time to give a shout out to our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Sentinel Security Plus. For all your premium security needs, visit SentinelSecurityPlus.com.
And The Substance Group for all your integrated marketing solutions. Visit TheSubstanceGroup.com.